Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you here this afternoon, and we are going to get started. We're going to listen first to the report from the Board of Public Works. Micah? If we could have the members of the Board of Public Works to come up to sit, that'll be wonderful.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank the Senator and the citizens of the great state of Maryland for allowing me to have the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Micah Richards, and I will present the Board of Public Works budget analysis. Starting on page 1, the governor, the comptroller, and the state treasurer comprise the Board of Public Works. The board approves leases and contracts executed by state agencies. The fiscal 25 allowance decreases by $15.9 million compared to the fiscal 24 working appropriation to $30.5 million. On page 2, the fiscal 24 legislative priority is section 19 of the fiscal 24 budget bill, included a total of $13 million to provide grants to multiple private nonprofits. In Exhibit 1, 10 grantees have received a portion of the funding, 3 have received all funding in full, and the West Baltimore County Redevelopment Authority payment has not been approved by the Board of Public Works yet. On page 3, on February 9th, 2024, Maryland Association of Boards of Education submitted their report on the progress of implementing the pilot programs in at least 2 counties, establishing direct primary care health centers for school system employees and their families. On page 4 in Exhibit 2, 93% of the budget supports grants, payments to erroneously confined individuals in the contingent fund. Chesapeake Bay Trust has the largest portion of the grant funding at 38%. On page 5 in Exhibit 3, the fiscal 25 allowance decreases by 34.3% compared to fiscal 24. The largest decrease is the Section 19 grant funding to nonprofits of $12.9 million. On page 6, the Justice Thurgood Marshall Amenity Center, located at PS 103 as of December 31st, 2023, completed the restoration. The center will open July 2024. The position that was vacant in the Board of Public Works has been filled as of February 2024. On page 8 in Exhibit 4, the Maryland Zoo attendance decreased by 1.2% from fiscal 22 to 23. Weather in the storm, water, and parking lot reconstruction project affected the attendance. The zoo's goal is to implement a 10-year master plan with multiple additions to the zoo. On page 9, Exhibit 5 shows that the general public attendance decreased by 11.9% and member attendance decreased by 5.6% from fiscal 22 to 23. School field trips increased by 56.8% from fiscal 22 to 23. On page 10, Exhibit 6 shows support has a total of $13.5 million, an increase of 29.5% from fiscal 22 to 23. Revenues has a total of $9.2 million, an increase of 1% from fiscal 22 to 23. From fiscal 22 to 23, program services expenditures increased by 5%. Management decreased by 5%. Fundraising increased by 7%. On page 11, Exhibit 7 shows that the majority of the government contributions come from the Board of Public Works, distributing over $5.6 million. On page 13, since the first award for erroneous convention compensation, the Board of Public Works has approved compensation to 26 individuals, totaling $39 million in awards. In Exhibit 8, spending is expected to remain flat in fiscal 2025, but peak at $9.5 million in fiscal 2026. The out-year cards are projected with no known award amounts beyond fiscal 2027. On page 14, DLS recommends that the Maryland Zoological Society Incorporated submit audited financial statements for fiscal 2024 and quarterly reports showing monthly attendance figures for the zoo for fiscal 2025 by visitor group. This should be included in a breakdown of the kinds of passes allocated. On page 15, the 2023 Joint Chairman's Report requested for the zoo to submit audited financial statements for fiscal 2023 and monthly attendance figures for fiscal 2024 by visitor group. The reports required to date have been submitted, with additional quarterly reports due later in the fiscal year. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. You did a wonderful job. Are there any questions, senators? See no questions. Thank you very much. We will now hear from
Madam Chair, John Gontram, representing the Board of Public Works. I want to thank you for having me this afternoon, and to Mr. Richards for the thorough analysis. Madam Chair, members of the committee, the board's FY25 operating budget can once again be conceptually separated into two categories. As Mr. Richards indicated, the first category can be considered pass-through funds. These comprise over 90% of the board's proposed FY25 operating budget. These include grants to specified named grantees in the operating budget. We have representatives from those organizations here today to talk about their organization's activities. This portion of the board's budget also includes the board's contingent fund and compensation to erroneously incarcerated individuals. The remaining portion of the board's budget, operating expenses, is mainly personnel expenses. The board has a number of board staff has a number of specific responsibilities, including administration of the state's tidal wetlands licensing program and advising the board and state agencies on procurement law. But the board staff has two overarching missions, and these are to facilitate the actions of the board and to make those actions accessible to the General Assembly, the general public, and the press. I'm happy to assist with answering any questions.
Is Karen here? Karen Brown, Sean O'Connor, Wesley Hines, Jana Davis. If I could have you all to please come up. We may have room for one more. That's Raymond Morris. Okay.
First.
Okay, we're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and the rest of the committee. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Karen Timer Brown, and I am the president and CEO of Historic Annapolis. Historic Annapolis is proud of our longstanding public and private partnership with the state of Maryland that spans over 5 decades. We're honored to serve the state as your partner in the care and public presentation of 12 state properties entrusted to us, which is approximately 40,000 square feet of buildings and 2 acres of green space in the heart of the historic district. We are also especially proud to welcome over 200,000 people to these state properties annually. It's our mission to preserve these treasures and to make properties like the William Peka House and Garden available to the public. I am in support of and very grateful for the funding being brought forth or recommended for Historic Annapolis. This funding is essential for us so that we can preserve and protect these physical spaces, as well as share them to the public and connect people with Maryland's diverse heritage. They are economically valuable heritage tourism assets. They provide engaging opportunities for educational programs for school kids from all over the state, and they help build community through programs where we strive to make all who visit feel welcome and engaged. We have identified that, in fact, the true need is in excess of the current support from the state. We're faced with aging infrastructures throughout our buildings, with inflation and increased operational costs. Additionally, the portfolio of properties that we manage has increased significantly over the past decade to include the James Bryce House and the John Shaw House. Additional operational funding will be necessary for the management and operation of these buildings. We are especially excited about the next chapter in the history of the John Shaw House, and that's once the DLS department vacates the building, and we're engaging in conversations about future reinvestment of this important asset and a long-term tenancy. I also wanted to close by stating that we leverage state funding, approximately dollar for dollar, of additional revenue produced by Historic Annapolis that's invested in the care and ongoing operation of these properties. I welcome an opportunity at any time if you'd like to come see these properties. And again, thank you for your consideration for our request.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sean O'Connor. I'm the past chair and current chair of the Executive Committee of the Signal 13 Foundation. We submitted testimony, but I want to take the opportunity to tell you about our nonprofit. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary starting in 1983, and our mission then and now remains the same: to support the brave men and women of the Baltimore City Police Department. If they have any financial hardships, we give grants and college scholarships to their children. Police are proud, and it's not easy for them to ask for help, but they struggle to pay their monthly bills like everyone else. So when something unexpected comes up and it has devastating consequences, requests are now increasing, and we rarely turn down an applicant. Unfortunately, we're a small operation with a lean budget, and that's why we're asking for this $250,000 grant from the state of Maryland. It is critical to our operations. Recently, Signal 13 came to the aid of a young officer who was financially devastated by an abusive husband, an officer who needed help after he was shot in the line of duty, a young officer whose wife passed away suddenly and left him to care for their 4-year-old daughter. Also today, just as when I pulled up the paper today, there's a story on the front page of Officer Holly, Kiana Holly, who was killed in the line of duty a little bit more than 2 years ago. She was a single mom with 4 children. We've helped raise money to assist her 4 kids. She has 3 daughters and a son. The son is in need of special help. So these cases are what we're all about. While grants and scholarships are always be the priority, the Signal 13 board understands the importance of community policing and improving the relationship between police and the citizens they serve. We have just recently formed a partnership with Project Numa, a social and emotional learning program for boys in the 4th to 8th grades. We will provide scholarships to 3 kids a year. Project Numa is different because its interaction with kids and police is integral to its success. About 1,000 kids have been through the program since 2014, and the results are very positive. Its founder was a victim of gun violence, and he understands how important it is to reach these kids when they are young. Project Numa is an inspirational program. We are proud to partner with them. We thank you for your support in our grant request. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, senators? Okay, next.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Wesley Hines. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad Development Corporation, and I'm here on behalf of our communities of Cumberland and Frostburg and the Allegheny County region and our staff. We just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to receive funds from you in the amount of $250,000 to help us fulfill our strategic goals at the railroad as a major tourism draw and an economic impact on the area. I would like to share some quick numbers with the committee and those in attendance. Our visitation at the railroad has almost doubled since 2021. In 2021, we carried 47,000 people. And this year, 2023, we closed out at 75,000 people. We actually are able to track our attendance for our Christmas trains, which tend to bring a lot of people in from other areas of the region, such as Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh, and Northern Virginia. That totals around 35,000 individuals. Those are families that come in and they enjoy the hospitality of Western Maryland, as well as the retail and restaurant channels. I did also want to share with you some of the things that we're able to accomplish on the local level. Western Maryland Scenic Railroad last year contributed over $100,000 to local and regional philanthropy. Because of the success of Polar Express, we actually have to bring in a lot of high school and college age volunteers. And this year we were able to provide them with an education scholarship totaling $25,000 for approximately 40 individuals. We're very proud about what we do in the community, and we appreciate, again, your support of what we do in Western Maryland. Thank you.
All right. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Jana Davis. I'm the president of the Chesapeake Bay Trust, and this is only our second time before this subcommittee. So I'll give it just a tiny bit of background on the trust. We were created by the General Assembly, Senator Bailey knows, back in the 80s to really reach communities on the ground. We use grant making to do that. We feel that if communities own and lead and do their own projects, they'll be sustained for longer. You all created the Chesapeake Bay license plate and the tax checkoff to make those grants a reality back then. And since then, you have come to us and asked us if we would manage additional dollars for different programs. We're very efficient. 92 cents of every dollar goes back out the door into programs, highest Charity Navigator rating for decades. And so these two programs are in the bill today. And again, we say these dollars go through the trust, not to the trust, because they're going to go right back out the door into communities. And in fact, these two programs have benefited all four of your districts. Senator King not here today, but Senator Bailey, you had one of the very first Chesapeake Conservation Corps members and have one right now, and another one over the years. And the others of you have had urban trees grants made in your districts. And so the two programs before you, $10 million for the Urban Trees Grant Program, which was part of the Tree Solutions Now Act of 2021. Happy to answer questions about that. I won't go into detail. You have my written testimony. And the second program is $1.5 million for the Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps, which was expanded in the Climate Solutions Now Act of 2022 to include increased stipends for the Corps members and an expansion to climate and climate justice. So I would like to end by thanking Board of Public Works so much. John Gontram has been incredible to work with. We manage money for about 40 different partners and really, really appreciate our partnership with BPW. And again, happy to answer questions about the details of any of the programs.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Ray Morris. I am the mayor of Cumberland, and I'm also a board member of the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. First, I'd like to thank you all for your support in the past for the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. I think you can tell by the numbers that Wes was giving earlier how much this means to our community and that we are good stewards of the money, especially when you take a good look at the increase in ridership over the last 3 years. We got to give kudos to Wes for that. He has led us in a remarkable turnaround. You know, and the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad is a vital part of tourism for the city of Cumberland. You know, it's where it starts. This is where you board the train, and it's critical to our downtown area and our downtown community. As you may know, right now, we are in the middle of the Baltimore Street to Access Revitalization Program, which if you have been up, you've seen our downtown area is an absolute construction area. But hopefully that will be completed this summer. We look forward to you all coming up. If you would like to, we'd love to have you. Wes mentioned that a lot of people came up for the Polar Express, one of which was Governor Moore and his wife and family came to ride the Polar Express. So obviously we invite all of you all to come up and participate in that. Pajamas are not required. It is the one time that it's socially acceptable to wear your pajamas out in public. But it's your choice if you would like to do that. But thank you again for your money in the past and the consideration going forward.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions? Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman. We appreciate the opportunity. I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you very much for coming and talking to us today. You know, we live here in Annapolis, so it's, you know, part of our home. We get to spend a lot of time on the Chesapeake Bay. We love going to Western Maryland and
Mhm.
appreciate what you all do for the officers. As a bunch of my friends are the officers in Baltimore City, I know several of the people that you've worked with, and I really appreciate the fact that all of you came here. We appreciate the support that BPW gives to you, and you have very worthwhile programs. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who is scheduled to speak on from? If I could have you to come forward, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Bob Flanagan. I'm the mayor of Frostburg, and I probably should have been with the Western Maryland guys because I'm also the chair of the railroad. Again, just wanted to say thanks from Frostburg. I've been on the board for quite a number of years, as has Mayor Ray. We're very, very tickled about the direction what we're currently traveling in. The train goes from Cumberland to Frostburg. It starts in Ray's town, it ends in my town. And the last couple of summers and in the fall, and especially Polar Express, the partnership between the two communities has really, really grown. Ray and I are very, very good friends. We work very close together. Working with Wes has been a real pleasure. The guy knows how to market. He knows how to make things happen. So again, we'd like to welcome you all to come out and visit with us any time of year. We're running trains right now every weekend. And we're looks like we're going to have another really banner year. But what the railroad does for the two communities is huge. As you know, actually the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, it came about because a number of years ago, some legislatures decided that we needed some help with tourism. So it was actually your all railroad until 2003 when you dedicated it back to Allegheny County. And I'd like to say for the last couple of years, we've really made the most of the little dollars that you give us. So we appreciate it. Please come see us and have a good rest of your session. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's my friend Barry Glassman. Former
Thank you, Madam Chair.
executive in Harford County.
Good to see you, Madam Chair.
It's always good to see you too.
Barry Glassman, on behalf of Harris Jones Malone and the Maryland Zoo, we thank you for your support for the Maryland Zoo. We have the President and CEO, Kirby Fowler, here to provide any additional information. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Kirby Fowler, President of the Maryland Zoo. I first want to start off by thanking all of you, the General Assembly, for your support over these many years. In addition, Governor Moore and the administration, John Godtram and the Board of Public Works, as well as our DLS analyst, Micah Richards. I started at the zoo right when COVID struck, a wonderful time to start, but I'm happy to say that we're up to 423,000 guests who walked through our door last year, which is up to pre-pandemic levels. More importantly, our student numbers went way up. We had about 60,000 school children come into our zoo last year. 19,000 of them from Title I schools. We had 21 of 24 jurisdictions in Maryland represented in the school trips we had this year. Also, we've teamed up with the Department of Natural Resources in special ways this past year. We saved some otters in Harford County, and we also checked on the health of wild black bears in Garrett County. So we continue to look forward to new changes at the zoo, but I came here primarily just to say thank you and to request your support for the allocation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very, very much. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that ends the discussion relative to the you've done a wonderful job. I really appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is we're going to hear from the Baltimore City Community College.
Thank you. We're going to start on page 4 with Exhibit 1, which shows enrollment from fall 2017 to 2023. From 2017 to 2019, BCCC's enrollment, excuse me, grew by 721 students or 17%. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, enrollment had fallen significantly from 2019 to 2021, decreasing by 1,045 students or 21%. Total enrollment increased by 401 students or 11.3% in fall 2023 compared to fall 2022. The first time student population increased for a second consecutive year, growing by 27% in fall 2023. However, the dual enrollment student population experienced its largest decline in recent history, decreasing 46.3% in fall 2023 compared to 2022. Exhibit 2 on page 6 looks at the successful persistent rate for BCCC. While four-year institutions use graduation as a measure of success, community colleges use the successful persistent rate. A successful persister is a student who attempts 18 or more credits in their first 2 years, and after 4 years is still enrolled, has graduated, or has transferred to another institution. The exhibit shows the rates of college-ready students, those who did not need any developmental courses, and developmental completers, those who completed required developmental courses and later completed their program course requirements. Students who are developmental completers at BCCC have tended to have higher persistent rates than those who were considered college-ready. However, with the 2018 cohort, that trend reversed, with developmental completers attaining a successful persistent rate of 68%, while college-ready students attain a rate of 80%. BCCC attributes this to the college-ready cohort being the smallest cohort, 10 students in years, compared to 356 developmental completers. Exhibit 3 on page 7 adds the developmental non-completer category to the persisting data. Developmental non-completers are students who did not complete the required developmental coursework within 4 years. As seen in Exhibit 3 at 30% for the 2018 cohort, these students have a persistent rate that is significantly lower than the college-ready and developmental completer populations. The developmental non-completer rate of persistence decreased to 30% for the 2018 cohort compared to 46% for the previous cohort. Moving to the budget, Exhibit 4 on page 9 provides a summary of the budget changes for unrestricted funds by program from fiscal 2023 to 2024. The education general expenditures total increases by $9.5 million or 17.1% over fiscal 2023. Instruction costs are expected to increase by $4.7 million, academic support by $2.7 million, and student services by $2.6 million due to lower than expected spending in fiscal 2023 due to vacancies. Institutional support decreases by $1 million after accounting for the proposed deficiency. Exhibit 5 on page 11 provides an overview of the BCCC funding formula. As shown in the exhibit, absent hold harmless funding, BCCC's fiscal 2025 allowance would be $34.1 million or $2.4 million below the previous year's funding level. As a result, the hold harmless provision takes effect, resulting in the institution's funding level reaching $43.5 million. When the English for speakers of other languages funding is included, BCCC's total funding reaches $45.8 million for fiscal 2025. Exhibit 6 on page 12 shows state support per FTEs. Due to inclining enrollment since fiscal 2020, state support per FTE has increased from $11,010 to $24,715 in fiscal 2023. That is an increase of 124.5%. State support per FTE is expected to remain above $20,000 for fiscal 2024 and 2025. Discussion of the proposed budget is found on page 12, with Exhibit 7 on page 13 identifying the budget adjustments. The $2.5 million annualization of the fiscal 2024 salary enhancements has been budgeted directly into BCCC and will be included in fiscal 2026's hold harmless. For fiscal 2025, the general fund decreases 3.3% after accounting for statewide salary actions, a proposed deficiency, and excluding pay-go. When reviewing the personnel data for BCCC, as is shown on page 14, the college had 105 vacancies above the budgeted turnover rate. DLS asked the president to comment on the continued high vacancy rate, efforts to reduce the vacant positions, and the effect that the vacancies are having on the college's ability to meet its goals. Moving to the issues, the first issue begins on page 15 and discuss enrollment in the Mayor's Scholar Program. As is shown in Exhibit 8 on page 15, total FTE enrollment has steadily declined at the college since 2011. The budget anticipates BCCC's FTE enrollment to grow in fiscal 2024, increasing by 27.9% when compared to the fiscal 2023 actuals. Exhibit 9 on page 16 cover the Merit Scholar Program cohort size. There's been an increase in applications since the 2019 cohort. However, summer bridge enrollment and yield rate has decreased over the same period, with the 2022 cohort not meeting the goal of 250 students. Exhibit 10 on page 17 shows the second year retention rates for the fall 2018 through 2021 cohorts in the Merit Scholar Program. The 2018 cohort had a second year retention rate of 82%, while the 2021 cohort's retention rate is 14%. Issue 2 looks at the institutional realignment plan. I won't go into too much detail because the actions that BCCC has taken in calendar 2023 for each realignment task is summarized on pages 18 through 21. I do want to note that BCCC has submitted the realignment task 6 report since the writing of this analysis. The DLS recommended actions are found on pages 22 and 23. There's a request to restrict funds until the submission of a report on the implementation of realignment 6. However, that report has been submitted, and the second recommendation is requesting a report on enrollment in the Merit Scholars Program. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Okay. If we could have the members of the Baltimore City Community College to please come forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator,
Well,
Chair.
first of all, I want to thank you all for coming. We're glad to see you. And so I'm glad to see you, Madam President. You all are doing a wonderful job under some trying circumstances.
We do thank you, and I think the report information we have certainly attests to many of the changes that have been made at this institution over a short period, but let me introduce as well several who have joined me. They're all at the cabinet level. VP Burrell, she's over institutional research and planning. Mr. Bascom, Aubrey Bascom, he is over finance and administration. Mr. Michael Radding, he is the Chief Information Officer. Mr. Michael Thomas, he is the VP over facilities and continuing education. And Ms. Donna Thomas, who is the interim VP for student affairs as well. We have a full complement of cabinet. It kind of goes hand in hand with some of what's in the report with regard to vacancies, but let me thank again for this. Thank you for this opportunity, Madam Chair, in support of we're here in support of the governor's vision in the FY25 budget recommendations for the college. Let me thank you as well as the committee members for your continued support of higher education as well in Maryland. Our analysts, Kelly Norton, who we have ongoing relationships with, and we enjoy many changes to the relationships we've had with state agencies as well. Many people are very well aware. Everyone is getting back after COVID. It was a particularly daunting task for us. We were out closer to a 2-year period, but we're coming back, and you can see the change in enrollment. Ms. Norton has already presented some of those numbers as well, but they're repeating. For the fall, up 11%, for the winter, up 27%, and for the spring, we're up 22% as well. All of that to say that with the enrollment increases, we are here today with the operating budget, and as we speak next week on the capital budget as well, that we will continue to seek out and secure funding to support new facilities that must come to this college to support the students and the enrollment that we expect to recover to as well. We have a student first model at Baltimore City Community College. Good to know. We have kept tuition for 7 years. We have kept tuition at the same level at $110 a credit hour. New programs continue to show at the college as well. We have 5 new programs in the academic area as well across the board in marketing, sign language, communications, cybersecurity, early childhood. We're very pleased with these new programs as well. We've been designated as a center of excellence for cyber security as well, and we're very pleased as well with that. We are focusing in on the Maryland Blueprint as we're looking at increasing the dual enrollment and new partnerships with Baltimore City public schools. We'll have a heavy focus on developmental education that's coming out of the Maryland Blueprint as well. And as many of you know, we are suffering with many students, certainly coming out of Baltimore City public schools, who join us and desperately in need of developmental education. We'll be moving developmental education to the high school level as well. That will help tremendously, as about 92% plus students coming out of Baltimore City public schools need developmental education. This will help move them forward to higher education quicker. If we can take care of developmental education at the high school level in partnership with Baltimore City public schools, when they arrive at our doorstep, it cuts the time that they will actually have to spend in their degree programs as well. Enrollment, new enrollment planning is going on. We're aware of some of the populations that have gone down, but we're in the recovery mode for our enrollment. As you heard, the enrollment numbers going up, and we expect that they will continue as well. You also may be aware that the college, under the 12 realignment mandates, one in particular has to do with the ERP system, which is our enterprise resource planning, which is all the technology that supports the institution. This is a system that was 30 years old. It was implemented in 1996. And so when most of the cabinet who are here came on board a few years ago, we were still operating under a 1996, almost unheard of, ERP system. We have moved forward to operationalize those models for finance, for HR, for the student accounts area, for financial aid, and this will be a daunting task as we have implemented the modules, but the day-to-day operations will continue as you rip out what happened over 30 years and now moving the college forward. So we're very pleased to meet one of those 12 realignment tasks. We've met many as well as we've dealt with capital improvements, articulation agreements, our dual enrollment, task 6, which had to do with the faculty engagement. And as you've heard Ms. Norton say as well, those reports are in. So both the faculty engagement task 6, we have submitted that and expecting that we will see the withdrawal of the amount, the $750,000 that you're seeing in your report. The MSP report that was also indicated, that has been turned in. So we turned that in December. It was due in December. We turned it in the latter part of December for 22-23. The 24 report that you see in your document will represent data for 23-24, which we are in the midst of. We're moving the college toward a whole different model of conversation, shared governance, so that we can operate in an environment where we have decision-making that cuts across the board, that's very inclusive. And so, Madam Chair, I can end my comments there. I can go to the recommended actions and go through those. Ms. Norton has touched on some of those. If you would like me to respond on the vacant positions and the college's position in terms of the vacancy rate, certainly I can respond there as well, as we're seeing a higher than normal vacancy rate, but we are advertising for these positions. We're at the point, many other organizations in the state and across the country that are suffering from the lack of a pool of adequate applicants for many of the positions. They are still being posted. We are interviewing as quickly as capable and eligible people come on board, but we know on a national level, there is a turnover rate of about 47% across the nation. And so we're simply not going to escape some of those figures, but do want you to know that these positions are posted, and we are interviewing for many of the positions that have vacancy in front of them. We can't advertise for all of them at the same time because we need to be able to manage those processes, but we are moving forward to fill our vacancies as quickly as possible. No reason for us to hold. We have new enrollments coming in. We have new programs as well. And what will serve the institution best is for us to be at a full level of operating across the board with faculty and staff. So Madam Chair, I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
You know, I've had the opportunity to visit the Baltimore City Community College. I do want you to talk to me, to this committee, a little bit about the kinds of students that you indicated that most of the students who come there are coming from Baltimore City. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's our high percentage. That's our demographic, Baltimore City.
Okay, talk to me about the enrollment. Have you seen an increase in the enrollment?
We're seeing the increase now. The numbers were given earlier. So in the fall, we're seeing the total 11%. I believe it was 22% in the spring, and we're about almost 24%. Now, so we are seeing an increase. So Baltimore City Public Schools is also in a recovery mode coming out of COVID, where many students didn't return. Many students simply probably were set back because they were out for a long period of time taking virtual classes. Our mode is to offer these students on-site classes. What we do know is they don't do as well in a virtual environment. So moving forward with both Merit Scholars, with dual enrollment, will help tremendously. And the special program, bringing students forward at an earlier age so they can get their dual enrollment out of the way. That would be English, math as well, reading, writing, and we're putting forward a new course for developmental science as well. If it sounds like a lot of developmental, that's the demographic who we serve. And our role is then to reach out and to serve these students where they are, and not for us then to turn our back and to try to look at a different demographic. We're the only urban two-year institution certainly in that environment. We are the community's community college. We are Baltimore City Community College. That's our demographic. That's the students who we will serve. And if this is where they are in their academic programs, where they need developmental help, that's where we're going to extend our service as well. The good news is we're seeing an enrollment increase. The good news is that we expect that we will begin to hit the MHEC projections in terms of the enrollment for this institution. And so COVID for us, it didn't do us any favors. It didn't do anyone any favors, but we are in a recovery mode, and the cabinet people sitting with me as administrators are pushing each of their areas to begin to make a difference in terms of how we serve these students.
What about, talk to us about your nursing program. Where are we with the nursing program there at the city? You know, I'm asking that question because I had two sisters, and Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam got their start at the community college. Are you all doing well there with the School of Nursing, or do you have what you need in order for us? You know, nursing right now is in demand. And I was just wondering whether or not you all have what you need to continue the program that was there when my family came there. And I'll have to tell you, the program was excellent. They ended up moving on to the University of Maryland, where they received their degrees. And as a matter of fact, both of my sisters went on and got their master's degree. So it really prepared them to pursue a wonderful career as nurses in Baltimore. One was in charge of the emergency room at Johns Hopkins, so that tells you something. And then the other sister was a nurse at Sinai Hospital. So where are we with the nursing program?
Where we are, we're getting ready. Next month, we will have the accrediting body out. So we are getting ready for full-scale reaccreditation visit for nursing. We believe we have put some things in place to respond differently with new equipment and so forth. Where there is a lack is on the facility side. That facility should match what you see at the hospitals. So if you have incumbent workers at the hospitals, they should be able to come to Baltimore City Community College and receive additional training, outside training on the same types of equipment that they are asked to use on a day-to-day basis in the hospitals. Our students should also have that advantage to be able to train on similar equipment that you would find once we put them into the workforce. Right now, what we do have on the capital side is that total building needs to be renovated. That total building is again, broaching well over 20 some odd years old. We're seeing failures, consistent failures in terms of HVAC systems, heating, cooling systems, everything that one can think of is wrong with these facilities. So what we have done is submitted requests for capital funding. We're looking for the design money that will go into the capital side for this facility to begin then to expand it, both on all of the facilities to bring them up to date in terms of what one would look at for an adequate facility, equipment that one would then expect to see to train nurses. So we certainly appreciate the fact that you have two of your siblings who came years ago, but Senator Benson, what your family trained on years ago should not be the same equipment that they're training on today. There should be a change, and that change can only come with appropriate funding for both the facility side, which is sorely needed, as well as the physical side for the equipment and the faculty and so forth. That's what's needed at this institution.
The other area that I'm a little concerned about is your capital budget. The complaint that I heard from not only my sisters, but for people who go there. I have a wonderful relationship with a number of people there in Baltimore who attend the college. But the concern that they have is that there's no place really for them, for the students to sit down. There's no room, there's no building or no facility on the campus where students can go and sit down and study. I think we need to look at the capital budget there at the community college, because that really is a problem. There's no place for them to go to sit down to study. Or am I wrong on that?
No, Senator, you are, I think, very pointed with your comment. We would have to agree. Our students, there is no viable student center. They have a game room that might be half the size of this room. There's no wellness center. There's no student center. There are no places for students to go. So if you have students who really need space to go in because of their faith and pray or other things, they're not there. There's not separate meeting space for that the students can enjoy. But when one looks at the other 15 two-year institutions and then compares what you have at the city and the state's only urban institution as a part of Maryland and a part of Baltimore City, we come up wholly inadequate. And I'm going into about 28 years of higher ed, and I have not been any place where we didn't have those types of facilities. Students are often seen studying in their cars. They're in the hallways. They're studying in the hallways. You can see them stretched out sometimes in the hallways. There's no place for them to go. And when one begins to say, what are your retention efforts? What are your recruitment efforts? If you bring them to our college where they should be, there's no reason for them to leave the city and to go 15, 20, 30 miles to another two-year institution. There's nothing wrong with those institutions, but what is right is that we're there. And we should be able to provide the resources to an underserved institution for students coming from the demographic in Baltimore City, and to say that we have provided less, not more, not even equal to, becomes the problem. So if someone can explain why they don't have a student center, why they don't have a wellness center, why they don't have a true outdoor sports, basketball, volleyball, you don't have any of that. That campus is probably landlocked. Those things do not exist. So when we're out recruiting and they're coming to the campus, you have to be able to offer something better than simply bricks and mortar. So yes, wellness makes a difference. Student center makes a difference. So students have valuable time, not just in classrooms, but outside of the classroom. So we're fixing many of the buildings to serve the classrooms and the equipment to bring those up to where they should be. We haven't even begun to touch on external to the academic programs in the classrooms, in terms of the social life that students should enjoy when they come to a college like Baltimore City Community College.
Okay. Are there any other questions, senators? Do you have any questions? Okay, so we're now interested in hearing from the any of the speakers that we have there.
Michael, do you want to talk a little bit more? Do you want to say anything on the facility side that may help? Is this our VP? He's over facilities, and I heard your question very well, Senator Benson, but he may be able to, because it was just this morning as he came into a meeting to say that another building, the HVAC system failed, and it was in the library, so it failed, which means if the temperature goes up 20%, we will not be able to cool that building properly. We'll have lots and lots of complaints. So either the cooling systems fail or the heating systems fail. Not only should we not put our students in those positions, we should not put our faculty and staff in those working conditions either. So, Mr. Thomas?
Good afternoon. So as the president said earlier, when your family was there, that was actually the last time the buildings had been renovated. They've never been renovated. And so the building is old. The HVAC system last year, we had to do an emergency procurement so we could cool the building. We actually had a big chiller sitting in our parking lot to where we could chill the building so we wouldn't have to shut the nursing program down. So a lot of our buildings are in disrepair. We hadn't had the funding in years for deferred maintenance, and now we are getting that funding. And so now we're looking at what we can do, not only to keep the buildings operational for students, but to also work with the capital plans to ensure that we renovate these buildings as quickly as possible. We know that this summer we'll begin the planning for the funds should be released this summer, so we can begin the planning for the renovation of the nursing building. And same thing with our library. This morning, unfortunately, we found out that the chillers are not working in our library. So we're going to have to do the same emergency procurement to ensure that we're able to cool the library down once the cooling season starts. So I believe what your sisters experienced then is what our students are currently experiencing now.
How long have you all been waiting for the proper funding to bring the buildings up to code?
So I think part of it, if you
20 years, there
Right.
has been previously deferred maintenance had been held for almost 20 years. We do thank the state for
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
20 years. So
20?
that was on just deferred maintenance. That's not on new facilities or expanded facilities, but deferred maintenance. And we've provided information where there was no deferred maintenance for over 20 years. One can ask what happened. The state in recent years, we have prepared information to receive some funding, but as we look back, there had been no funding for I believe it was 19 to 20 years for deferred maintenance on these buildings as well, which is why the ERP system, this is Mr. Radding sitting next to me, and you have an ERP system that was almost 30 years. It was implemented in 1996. I arrived in 2019, and we didn't go to the new system until 2021, when we began to fully implement a new system. So you had people operating basically by then in a moms and pops infrastructure, and we're now moving forward. Still have lots of concerns, lots of people complaining, don't like the new system. It was better when they could do it moms and popsy and work around. That's not the story for today. That's not how we can effectively operate the organization, and that's not the exposure that we should be providing to our students to say we're going to operate with a system that is 28 to 30 years old. Working well with the Department of Information Technology at the state level as well. So they are well aware on the project that we have moved forward. And Mr. Radding, you work with them on a weekly basis in terms of the progress for this new infrastructure that we've put in. Thanks.
It is also my understanding that I'll wait until you make your comments, and then there was something else I wanted to say.
Yeah, so I was just gonna add to what the president indicated. We do have the new ERP in place, and so the work started in 2021. In the fall of 2022, we actually went live with a new system, and so we've been using it since then. It has gotten easier and smoother with every new semester that we've been using the new system, but as the president indicated, there's still much work to be done just in terms of getting to a steady state.
How much does the city of Baltimore contribute to your budget? Does Baltimore contribute to the budget? Do they make a contribution?
Currently, through the Board of Estimates, I believe it is a little over $1 million that they have consistently contributed through Board of Estimates, and it's likely we will begin to have discussions now about going back and talking with them. We have not fully raised anything with them yet, but we intend to go back and talk about fuller support, greater support from the city regarding our students. Even if they put it all into scholarships, would be a tremendous advantage for our students as well. But in all fairness, we have not yet had an additional dialogue with Baltimore City regarding the change. When I arrived in 2019, it was $1 million, and I believe that $1 million had been on the books for some years. So I don't believe the amount has changed.
You get $1 million from Baltimore City?
That's correct.
That's all that you get?
That's all that we receive.
All right. Do you have any questions, senators? Okay. Is there anything else, Madam President?
No, we thank you. We thank you for your support. We thank you for the time that you have been patient to listen to so much that is going on. We continue to push the college forward. That's our role. That's why we came. Everyone here is committed. Those 12 realignment tasks have been daunting for the institution, but they've allowed the institution to continue to put forth information that not only demonstrate our progress, but they also demonstrate where there were disparities and inequities as well. So it may have worked somewhat in the reverse to say, Baltimore City Community College, you're responsible now for 12 tasks. Those are tasks that you would see any place. We're responsible for moving them forward, but it also shows where there were tremendous disparities for this institution as well, Baltimore City Community College, because there's not one that you can't talk about where you can say, have you made progress? We've made progress. But the other questions are, where are the inequities and the disparities in the first instance?
Is there anything else? I want to really thank you all for the work that you do. It just seems to me from sitting here and listening that you're doing much with little, and that is really something. And I have to tell you that I am very concerned about the Baltimore City Community College. I'm concerned about what I saw when I went there. I know that you all are putting 150% into making this college work. And I also, in talking with some of the students there, these are students, senators, so that you all will understand, a lot of these students are students who are there in the evening, as my two sisters were. That one had 4 children, the other had 3, and they went there to try to make it better for their families, to raise the bar. And that prevails right now. Most of the students that you see on the campus, and a lot of them are really first time it's their first experience in going to college. But these are working people who are there trying to move along, and they work hard. They work during the day. Some of them are working at night. But this population of people that are on that campus are people who are struggling. We have young students who are there, and they are struggling right along. They're working hard, but as you heard, there's no place for them to study. They don't have a gymnasium. They don't have what we see on other campuses, and that is very, very troubling for me. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to try to help to raise the bar, because the people there on that campus, the professor, this wonderful president and her staff, and the people who are working there, the faculty, have it in their heart to ensure that those students who come there on the campus are successful. And I think that we have an obligation here in Annapolis to ensure that they get the resources, and that the campus itself presents an attitude that of welcoming, other than the staff and the president. The facility itself needs to send a more powerful message. And that's what we ought to be about. So I really want to thank you all for the work that you do. And please know that you have our unwavering support here. We're going to do whatever we can, whatever you have in your heart that you can give to us. If you want to talk with us about suggestions, we certainly are willing to take your suggestions and do whatever is necessary, so that it will be better not only for you all, but it will be better for the students who come there.
We thank you, Senator Benson. And as always, the invitation is open. It'd be wonderful to see a group of senators, group of delegates to come and see and experience. So standing invitation, I think it helps. I think it'll make a difference. But we do thank you for your attention and for your sincere support. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now hear from the briefing from the Maryland African American Museum Corporation. If you want to, you can come up and be seated in the front.
Good afternoon. I will present the Maryland African American Museum Corporation. Starting on page 1, the Maryland African American Museum Corporation was created in 1998 to plan, develop, and manage the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture in Baltimore City. The fiscal 25 budget increases by $375,000 or 6.7% compared to the fiscal 24 working appropriation, to a total of $6 million. The breakdown comprises of 45.3% of the fiscal 25 budget is the $2.7 million grant in general funds provided by the state. Privately raised revenue in the fiscal 25 allowance increases by $375,000 to $3.3 million. On page 2 in Exhibit 1 from the fiscal 23 annual report, 70% of spending supported personnel, consultants, and contracting work. On page 3 in Exhibit 2, the African American Museum privately raised revenue in fiscal 22 and 23 exceeded the match of the state grant. In fiscal 24 and 25, the museum estimates that they will exceed the match of the state grant. In fiscal 23, The museum's total expenditures exceeded total revenue by $170,000. DLS requests for the museum to discuss the reasons for the fiscal 23 deficit. On page 4 in Exhibit 3, from fiscal 22 to 23, the number of donors and sustained members decreased by 58 people, and the total value of contributions decreased by $104,000. Membership dues collected in fiscal 23 totaled $49,000 across 459 members. On page 5 in Exhibit 4, from fiscal 22 to 23, the total in-person and virtual attendance to the museum increased by 7.2%. To increase attendance, the commission conducts ongoing outreach with schools and local businesses, including hotels and tourism services. The African American Museum is improving outreach by installing informational kiosks in 3 locations that will allow guests to take a quiz on Black history. Those kiosks are being contributed as an in-kind contribution. On page 6 in Exhibit 5, from fiscal 22 to 23, the total number of volunteers and docents increased by 28. Through February 2024, the museum had 52 active volunteers and 8 active docents. On page 7, DLS recommends the Maryland African American Museum Corporation concurs with the governor's allowance. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions, senators? Okay, we're ready for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman, and Micah Richards, thank you so much for serving as our analyst. I'm Terry Freeman. I am the president of the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, and with me is Rachel Graham, who is the Director of External Relations, but for a couple more days because she has just been named the new CEO for BOPA in Baltimore City. So she will be leaving us, but she's here with me today to support. You have my testimony, but there are a couple of things that I would like to go over if you don't mind. We certainly concur with our analyst report. And, you know, the museum serves as an institution to document, interpret, and preserve the complex experiences, contributions, and culture of Black people. We serve as a catalyst for sustained change by providing programs and exhibitions and bold conversations that educate and challenge our audiences. As reported by Micah Richards, the challenge for the museum during fiscal 2023 was revenue. While we exceeded our individual giving and earned income projections for fiscal year 2023, we significantly underperformed in corporate and foundation contributions for the same time frame. Several things we believe contributed to this underperformance. First, we really over budgeted for the year for contributed revenue. In recent years, the museum's corporate contributions outside of our gala fundraising have been in the range of $250,000 to $300,000, and we significantly over budgeted. The 2 exception years for that were 2021 and 2022, when funding from the Guinness Corporation that was located in Maryland was nearly $400,000 in 1 year, and PPE loans during the COVID time were provided and forgiven for the institution. Additionally, our fundraising efforts were hampered by staffing constraints. We too have been having issues with regard to turnover and just being able to find really strong individuals. We anticipated a few grants that we did not receive in fiscal 2023 as well. Those proposals totaled about $150,000, of which we only received $30,000. In 2024, I would say we have right-sized our projections, anticipating significantly less, but more than has been typical from corporations. While our staff costs were higher in fiscal 23, we still underspent our total budget. It is important for the legislature to understand what we were able to accomplish in fiscal 23. And I like to say that everything that can be measured doesn't always count, and everything that can be counted isn't always measured. In addition to presenting exhibits on Afrofuturism and Frederick Douglass over the past year, we instituted a new data collection system throughout the organization. We implemented planned professional development for all staff with a focus on basic skills and team building. We launched a weekly e-newsletter that is distributed to a list of approximately 29,000 people. We began outreach to Prince George's, Talbot, and Montgomery counties to expand our statewide reach. We utilized a partnership strategy that connected us to local nonprofit organizations that have related missions and worked in collaboration with them, including the Greater Baltimore Urban League, Black Girls Vote, Black Maternal Healthcare Coalition, and the Squeegee Collaborative. We offered community-based services through our Fall Festival, Book Festival, and our Summer Field Trip Fridays. Our school group visits increased by 36.5% over the course of the last year. We worked on a project with the University of Maryland to help teachers develop their curriculum for teaching African American history and posted those lesson plans on our website. And we led 2 teacher training clinics for Baltimore City and Howard County. And we also delivered a successful gala fundraiser because we do have that fundraiser annually. A couple of things that we are looking forward to in the coming year. We have been offered private funding to institute a teacher training institute this summer that will run approximately 3 days. We hope to recruit 20 teachers from across the state to focus on a curriculum around civil rights history here in the state of Maryland. We are hoping to open a new permanent installation in our permanent gallery on the lynching history of the state of Maryland. That funding has come from the federal government. And we also are hoping to open a dedicated children's space in the museum because we really don't have a space in the museum that is child focused. We have the exhibits. Of course, children can be in the exhibits, but something that is more child focused is necessary. And we have applied for funding from the city of Baltimore for that particular space. 2025 will also be our 20th anniversary. So we are looking to do some things in a big way in our 20th year. And we hope to reinstitute our relationship with the Maryland State Department of Education. We have a couple of new board members that say they can help us to better enhance that relationship. So we're looking forward to being able to do that. I also would mention that we are very involved in 2 conferences that are coming up this year. In the month of May, the Alliance of American Museums will be hosting their conference in Baltimore, and that will probably be about 3,000 museums from across the country that will be in Baltimore. And then in August, AAAM, which is the African American Association of Museums, will be hosted in Baltimore, and we are part of that host committee as well. So that is our report for the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. We are excited about the direction that the museum is headed. We have a fabulous new exhibit up called Black Woman Genius that is a tribute to our own Elizabeth Talford Scott and includes her daughter, Dr. Joyce J. Scott, who is also a native here in Baltimore. So we're really excited about the work that's going on at the museum.
Mm-hmm. What kind of relationship do you all have with the museum that's here in Annapolis? Do you all work very well together?
Absolutely.
Douglass.
Yes, we are. I consider them a sister museum, and I'm very clear, as I said to them, that they are the State Museum of African American History. We are a state museum of African American history, and we do collaborate on certain projects. I work with Chanel quite a bit.
Wonderful. That's
and we also share board members. We share a board member as well.
Do you all have any of, this museum here was renovated several years, well, probably about 8 or 10 years ago, they had some wonderful artifacts. And what are they there in Baltimore, or are they still there at Banneker Douglas?
You know, I'm not exactly certain about that. I think that will depend on if they had any loans that they have utilized, but I do know that in 2022, I believe, we shared an exhibit with Banneker Douglas on runaways of the Chesapeake.
Yes.
And that was an exhibit that is owned by the Lewis Museum, but shared with the Banneker Douglas Museum. So if ever we have an opportunity to share exhibits or installations,
wonderful.
we're happy to do that.
That's wonderful.
I will say this, while the lynching exhibit will be a part of our permanent collection, it is being designed to be able to move. So should Banneker Douglas at some point say, we would like to see if we could have that exhibit for a while, we would be happy to share that exhibit.
There is a museum in Prince George's County in North Brentwood. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with that.
Yeah, I have a life membership there. And they've been struggling a little bit.
A lot of the smaller county museums have been having some difficulties. I live in Columbia, and the Howard County African American Museum has been having some difficulties as well.
Yes.
Our hope is to be able to work with those museums. And this is also why I have asked our curator to see if we can't create, as we do our exhibits, if we can create them to be traveling, so that we could share these exhibits across the state with other museums at minimal cost, if any cost.
Okay, all right. Of course, you have the Dolman Museum up in Hagerstown. They're really struggling.
Most of our counties have some form of house museum or institution that is really preserving the history.
Yes. Okay. Are there any questions, senators? Thank you very much, and thank you for the work that you do.
And
Really
thank you for
appreciate
your
it.
support. We appreciate it.
I want this analyst to know that he's done, did he do a superb job today? I just want to say thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Anything, any other questions? Anything else? Okay.